Hello, I'm Terry Christensen, and this is Valley Politics. Today we'll take a look at Google's proposal to bring 20,000 workers to downtown San Jose, a project that could be transformative for the city. The jobs are great, and they'll be near the Diridon Station Transit Hub, but what about impacts on traffic and housing? To help us understand the challenges and benefits of the Google proposal, we'll talk with Teresa Alvarado of Spur, an urban planning advocacy group, and Jeffrey Buchanan of Working Partnerships USA, which advocates policies helping working families. Later, we'll hear some residents' views on the project, and then Maricela Gutierrez will update us on the work of SIREN. Then on Where Are They Now, we'll continue our talk with Larry Jinks, who was editor of the San Jose Mercury News from 1977 to 1981, and later served as publisher of the newspaper. All this next on Valley Politics. Welcome everyone, and welcome Teresa Alvarado of Spur and Jeffrey Buchanan of Working Partnerships USA. Let's start by just having each of you tell us very briefly a little bit about your organizations. Teresa, let's start with you with Spur.
Spur is a 107-year-old public policy organization that was founded in San Francisco after the 1906 earthquake, really to promote affordable housing and help the city rebuild. And over the decades, we added public policy areas, including transportation and regional planning and community planning, urban design, sustainability to our portfolio. And we have a great staff of really dedicated public policy experts that help the cities of the Bay Area think about how we're going to transition to a more urban future.
So perfect for our topic. Does SPUR stand for anything?
It's a very long title. San Francisco Bay Area Planning and Urban Research Association.
Okay. So Jeffrey, Working Partnerships.
Yeah, so Working Partnerships is a community and labor organization working to build an economy here in Silicon Valley that works for everyone. We work on research, policy, community organizing, really to ensure that working families and disadvantaged communities have a voice here in our region. Specifically through our Silicon Valley Rising campaign, we've been working to inspire the tech industry to really ensure that we're building new pathways into the middle class and ensuring some of our greatest challenges, be it affordable housing or creating high-wage jobs and not continuing the low-wage economy, addressing these issues really at the core of some of our work.
How long has Working Partnerships been around?
Over 2 decades at this point.
Yeah. It's worked on some big issues, living wage, children's health initiative, among many others.
Certainly,
minimum wage, too. Yeah. So we're here to talk about the Google project, a really big deal, could be a really big deal for the city of San Jose, the biggest deal ever for the city of San Jose. They're proposing possibly up to 20,000 jobs, up to 8 million square feet of office space. That would double the number of jobs in downtown San Jose, double the amount of office space. The good news is Google's a good employer. They generally do good design. They'll be near Diridon Station. It's a transit hub, so it should be transit-oriented development. And I guess the biggest deal for San Jose, it would balance off some of our job deficit because San Jose has far fewer jobs per employed resident than places like Santa Clara, Palo Alto, Mountain View, most of the other cities around here. And that hurts the tax base. So there's a lot of good things about this. And it sounds, Teresa Alvarado, to me, like exactly what Spur was talking about in your recent report, Rethinking the Corporate Campus.
That's right. Yeah, it's fascinating. And that came out before the Google announcement. We were looking at how the evolution of the corporate campus has really happened. 50 years ago, people would go to the middle of nowhere for a good job with IBM. Now, millennials in particular want to go to a location that they desire first and then the job. And they want to be in an environment that is dynamic, interesting, where there's walkability and bikeability and transit and higher density housing and all these fun things that you can find in an dense urban center. So this is a great opportunity for San Jose to become a regional employment center for the Bay Area like we haven't been. As you said, we've often provided the residents and the workers for other cities in our county, and this is an opportunity for us to change that. The great thing is a majority of Google's employees already live in the South Bay. They live south of Mountain View. So many of them already work or live in our community. This would give them a chance to work here as well.
So when you said people would go to the middle of nowhere to work for companies like IBM, you know, San Jose had an IBM.
I know.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's
Good
getting
point.
a little close to home. So Jeffrey, a lot of good stuff about the Google project. What's not to like?
You know, I think what we're most concerned about is just making sure that this project reflects the values of our community. I think so far we don't know much about the specifics of this project, and I think a lot of the things that Teresa raised are potential good points about this project. But what we do know about a project of this size is that it's likely to exacerbate some of our greatest problems as a community. When you think about income inequality, what will this particular project do to help ensure that those low-wage families that are being squeezed out of our community, how will it be creating good new jobs for those individuals that are most at risk of really feeling some of the greatest challenges that we're experiencing around this kind of divide, this two valleys that we're seeing emerge in San Jose? And particularly, what will this project do to address displacement in affordable housing? We're already seeing that in terms of sale value of residential properties, that they're starting to shoot up substantially. We know as this project moves forward that rents will continue to rise. I think in the Mercury news the other day, a developer was quoted as saying that we're likely to see San Francisco style rents moving forward as a result of this project. And so we want to see what will Google offer in terms of community benefits to ensure that we deal with this challenge of income inequality rising in the city and unaffordability in housing.
Would you just talk a little bit more about what you described as the two valleys?
Yeah, so right now here in San Jose and really across Santa Clara County, we're seeing that 1 in 3 individuals do not earn enough money to be able to support themselves as a family. And so as a result, you're seeing a rise of number of people being either displaced from their communities, pushed into RVs that you're seeing lining our streets, or doubling and tripling and even more than that, families into single housing units just to be able to afford the cost of living. And so we've had an economy where we've had a rise in high wage jobs on one hand, and then on the other hand, a rise of low wage service sector jobs. And really the tech industry has contributed to this. A project of this size with Google, if you look at their operations in their Mountain View facilities, you have thousands of low wage service subcontractors that are part of that. So folks that live perhaps in East San Jose, or at one point had lived in San Jose and are getting pushed out into Hollister and the outer parts of the region. These low-wage jobs in the tech industry are really contributing to our challenges here in terms of the divide in San Jose.
If I can talk a little bit about that. So, having been born and raised here on the east side in the 60s, one of my favorite articles is from The Atlantic from last year that talked about how in the 70s and 80s, if you were born here, we had the highest upward mobility of any city in the United States because we had great jobs, the economy was booming, we had a diverse community, we had houses that were being built. My family was able to buy homes, and that's why I'm still able to be here today. Those are all things that I worry as well about not being available to the next generation. To me, it's very, very important. At the same time, I've seen our valley evolve from orchards to semiconductors to tech, and it is part of the dynamic nature of our valley. So first of all, how do we prepare people for those jobs? I think that's absolutely critically important. Secondly, we've got to build houses. We need places for people to live. Those houses were available to my family, my husband's family, who were raised here as well. We need to make sure that we have enough houses for people to live in.
And I think that's right. And I think when we're looking at this project and we're thinking about what's possible, we're optimistic at this point that Google's a willing partner to look at how do we ensure that this project is benefiting all of San Jose. And I think looking at affordable housing is one thing, but then certainly looking at job standards for what kind of jobs will we see? And we've seen employers like Cisco here in San Jose who've committed to high road standards for these kinds of service subcontractors. So these 8,000 to 10,000 possible janitors, cafeteria workers, shuttle bus drivers that are also going to be working day in and day out in this campus. Can we ensure a living wage for these workers? Can we ensure that they have a voice on the job? These are things that, if Google is willing, we can ensure that we're creating good jobs with this project.
Google currently pays its contract workers better than lots of companies do.
No, in fact, they're paying actually much lower than, for instance, they're paying lower than San Jose's living wage at this point. For most of their service contractors, they're not being provided the kind of health care and other benefits that high road tech companies are paying their service subcontractors.
What are some of those high road companies? Cisco,
so if you look at Cisco,
yeah.
Recently, even Facebook has agreed to for their cafeteria workers, support a bargaining unit there. They have currently unionized for their security officers and for their shuttle bus drivers. And so there's a number of companies that show that it's possible to still have a strong, robust tech economy, tech business, and support your lowest wage service workers. And so we want to see an agreement here that moves forward, that we're supporting these kinds of high road jobs going forward.
Well, let's stick with housing for a little bit longer, because we've got to have housing for the Google workers, the ones who don't already live here, mm-hmm. but also for the service workers.
Certainly.
So where's that housing going to come from? What's your expectation, Teresa? Does Google have some responsibility? Is it the city's responsibility? Where's that going to come from?
Yeah, I think we all have a responsibility, and we're all losing already, right? There's no more housing for people to move here. We should be an open community where others who want to move here can move here. We don't have that right now. So the first responsibility is our city. We need to make sure that we're moving forward on urban villages. We have estimated that there are 50,000 houses that are planned for the urban villages within a 30-minute transit ride to the Google campus. That's really important for us to move forward with.
None of which are currently under construction.
None of which
right?
are currently under construction. The other is our neighbors, right? San Jose has been providing houses for people who have been working in other cities. It's really important that the region responds, because our economy is regional, our housing conditions are regional, our transit is regional, and they have a regional responsibility as well to house workers.
Well, they haven't met that responsibility so far. How do you get them to
You know, some have. So
play?
Milpitas has been doing great, right?
And Mountain View.
And Mountain View has been doing great. Now, they feel the brunt of that, right? They feel the residents that are responding and saying, hey, why are we taking on this burden of traffic? And part of that is because for decades we have not planned well, and we've built houses without building transit. So how do we be smarter? How do we look at this opportunity and say, let's do this right? Let's make sure we're building houses along transit corridors so we're not adding to congestion. How do we make sure that this is a net benefit for our community?
That's mainly the city and local government's piece, right? Jeffrey, what about Google?
Yeah, I think you're right that we need to do more as a city. We need to do more as a county. And I think when you think about Google, I can't help but think about their, when they launched their IPO and what was at the top of their code of conduct. Don't be evil. I think in this case, I would say do no harm should be the operative scenario for when Google's thinking about affordable housing. We worked with the University of Berkeley recently on a study looking at what would happen around the Diridon Station area, even with just the current plan for the amount of commercial office space that was going to move in. And all the literature points to, with this kind of investment in a transit hub, that we're going to see large-scale displacement, not just in the communities surrounding the station, but likely in areas across the city that are at most risk of gentrification and displacement. And so we believe that Google needs to be looking at a substantial investment in affordable housing. And a lot of the conversation around this project has been that our only expectation from Google should be that they pay a fair market value for the land. Frankly, I think that ignores the significant incentives and indirect subsidy that the city is going to be asked to deliver to this project through very significant upzoning. We're talking about 8 million square foot of commercial real estate in a zone that this will only take up a small corner of, was only planned to have 5 million square foot of commercial real estate. We've been told that this project will look very similar to the King's Cross plan that Google is developing in London, which is about a 240-foot building. When we think about an area that right now has been zoned for 90 or 120 feet, as the city looks towards this height study that Spur and others I know have been supportive of, we need to look at how are we capturing the value of all this upzoning that we know Google's going to request, because they can't build as dense and as high as they're going to need to implement this. How can we capture that and look at a community benefits package that addresses some of these issues, like affordable housing, like the quality of jobs, like investing in our education system, so a child who's graduating from Eastside Union High School has a shot at finding its way into a Google job. all these things I think are possible, but only if we as a community and as a city really speak with one voice to Google about trying to capture these community benefits.
But let me say, so I don't disagree with anything you've said. I absolutely think that is true. I love San Jose. I want this to be a benefit, a tremendous benefit for San Jose. But it's also not Google's responsibility to solve every problem that we have in the community. This is so early on. I certainly am not privy to the negotiations that are happening between the city and Google. I certainly believe that the city of San Jose is looking at these benefits and a package of benefits, and looking at what other cities have received as benefits and concessions from other tech campuses. But I certainly think that the city and the county and our regional other municipalities have a big role to play, our school districts. We cannot expect this one project to solve all the problems. And again, a lot of those employees are already living here. So it's not a new problem. It is not a new problem that
clearly such a big project is going to have also a big impact.
It's going to have impacts.
So there has to be some obligation there.
Absolutely.
And the Diridon plan only has 2,500 units of affordable housing.
Of housing, not affordable housing.
No, 25% of that's affordable. That's right. We're right down to the last few seconds. So Jeffrey, last words?
Yeah, we just think it's important that we not sell the city of San Jose short on this project, and we need to look at the fact that Google has been willing in other places for much smaller projects to put hundreds of millions of dollars into community benefits. And so before we go ahead and sell some of our most valuable public lands, let's make sure that we get to the table with Google and ensure a robust package of community benefits, investing in affordable housing, having high quality jobs, and investing in our children.
Teresa,
and
last words.
I would say this is a transit first project. The reason Google is picking this location is because of Diridon Station. So all those benefits.
And that's BART.
That's BART, high-speed rail, it's
BRT,
Caltrain, it's BRT, bus rapid transit, it's bus service, it's all these things that benefit the whole community. We absolutely need to make sure that station is fully built out. We've got to do it in a smart way. We've got to make sure that all that transit works well together, because that'll benefit the entire community.
We're out of time. So much to talk about, but Teresa Alvarado of Spur, Jeffrey Buchanan, Working Partnerships, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Larry.
Now let's hear what some residents have to say about this project. And then Maricela Gutierrez will update us on the work of SIREN.
I think it's great. It's more jobs and more money for the city.
I mean, I think it's like unavoidable, like it's gonna happen. So we just gotta make sure that we work together as residents to get, a good share of like job shares and access to it, because they've been bubbles in wherever they come in. And we have so much to offer them as well as residents of the San Jose area. But it's, it's happening. It's gonna happen. Like they want it, they're gonna have it. So
I understand that there's probably a lot of, NIMBYism, to this, but in the end, like, it's a lot better to be in a place that's, growing economically and that's economically active, even if it does have some relatively harsh side effects, than to be somewhere that things aren't developing. And the really important thing is to make sure that you get buy-ins from those who are growing and succeeding economically to offset, what happens, around the edges. That should be the responsibility of every, corporate citizen or everyone who's personally doing quite well from development, to see to it that they're not kicking out old people who are on, Social Security income or something like that.
I hope they don't kick the businesses that are there out. But if I was to work for Google, I'd be happy to commute there. It'd be a shorter commute for me. So yeah, it's good. I think it's good.
Hello, my name is Maricela Gutierrez, and I am the Executive Director of SIREN, a Silicon Valley-based nonprofit serving immigrants and refugees throughout Northern California and Central California. Our organization provides free legal services, advocates for better laws, and we offer many programs that empower immigrants and refugees in our community. As you know, these are challenging times for many members of our community, especially immigrants and refugees. Today, more than ever, SIREN reaffirms its commitment to fight for justice, equality, and freedom. We are doing everything in our power to ensure an America that lives up to its founding values and ideals, where every person has a right to the pursuit of happiness. On October 27th, SIREN will celebrate 30 years of championing immigrant and refugee rights and the culmination of an aggressive fundraising campaign to ensure that we have the resources needed to help every single person that comes to our door. In the last few months, the calls to our hotline have over doubled, as well as the number of people needing free legal services. We must invest more resources that will allow us the opportunity to hire more attorneys, caseworkers, and advocates that are so desperately needed right now. We must also continue to create policies that will protect immigrants and refugees in this country. If you believe in our fight and our cause, I ask you to support SIREN in some way. Join us at our 30-year gala on October 27th in San Jose. Join us as a donor or a volunteer, or become a SIREN member. Help us find more supporters and friends who will do the same. We must stand tall and proudly for immigrants and refugees. They are the heart and soul of this country. SIREN has been doing this work for 30 years and was created for this moment when we are most needed. We ask for your support today. For more information about SIREN, please visit our website or join our efforts to support immigrants and refugees. Thank you.
Next, we continue our interview with Larry Jinks, editor of the San Jose Mercury News from 1977 to 1981, and publisher of the newspaper from 1989 to 1994. Among other things, he'll tell us about a turning point in San Jose politics when a group of pro-growth council members fired the city manager. Al Garza and 3 other council members formed what was called in your newspaper and elsewhere the Gang of Four to overthrow
the fearsome foursome
to overthrow the controlled growth majority and the city manager Ted Tedesco, who were trying to manage growth more cautiously in San Jose. So these 4 guys decided to fire the city manager and push a big road expenditure plan and accelerate growth again. And the newspaper opposed them and wrote a lot of stories about it, very critical stories. And ultimately 2 of them running for election in November were defeated. Right. Some people say because of your newspaper.
Well, I think I said earlier that I think a newspaper has certainly located in a community has a responsibility to do an aggressive job of sort of monitoring what happens in local government. That can be done responsibly or not responsibly. But that, as you say, the Gang of Four, fearsome foursome, were very aggressive in what they were trying to do. And I and others at the paper thought that was that required really close attention from us and aggressive news coverage, which we did, and editorial page coverage.
Yes.
As you remember, I'm sure, along the way, I had brought in a guy who had worked for me in Miami named Rob Elder, who first was a reporter, and I think he used you and your colleagues as sources early on to learn about what was happening politically in this community. And when we were ready to name somebody to be the editorial page editor, I chose Rob for that job. And Tony Ritter kept him after I left, and he was in that job for a long time.
Very influential. You and I first also met in 1978 in a meeting that I was surprised by. I was chairing the campaign for district council elections. Right. At that time, the council was elected at large, citywide. Right. And we went to meet with the editorial board, and it was Rob Elder at the time, thinking there's no way the Mercury News is going to support this, because we thought you were still the old Mercury. Yeah. So we meet with Rob, it's a cordial meeting. We go away and say, well, yeah, we'll see what happens. They call us up, we come to meet with you. So we talk with you about district elections. We go away and we think, well, that was interesting. And then we get a call, we need to meet with Tony Ritter. So we go meet with Tony Ritter about the newspaper's position on district elections. So we were surprised to actually get so much attention. In the end, the editorial said district elections was an idea whose time had not yet come. Yeah. So it was kind of a gentle rejection. Mm-hmm. But I know that some of the old powers in the city were annoyed at the Mercury for not more aggressively opposing district elections. What do you remember about
You know, it's
time?
interesting. You mentioned that in the note you sent me about this. I don't remember it very well. I should. My own inclination, I think even then, was that in an area of any diversity and size, that it makes more sense for district elections make more sense than at-large elections. I also know, however, that it's not unusual for newspapers to be reluctant to endorse that because it lessens their own roles a little bit.
Well, it makes their job harder because you have more council members. And,
that's right,
yeah.
but it also it's easier to have influence when everybody is a part of the same pot than when you've got a Vietnamese area here and a Mexican American area here and so forth. I don't that your recollection of that kind of surprises me, but I don't question it at all. I'm sure that we were struggling among ourselves on that because we were less than 100% together on it.
Yeah, well, we were surprised that we got even.
You got as far as you got?
Yeah, that's right.
How much later did it actually happen?
It was on the ballot then in 1978.
And it won?
And it won.
You won?
We won. Oh. And the first district council was elected in 1980.
So much for the editorial influence of
Yeah,
that
well,
issue.
Fortunately, you kind of backed off, and it wasn't as aggressive as the old guard in the city would have liked. And they did actually what Phil Trounstein, as a reporter, referred to as the March on the Mercury, when they went to try to persuade Rob and Tony, I suppose, to oppose it. So you've been watching San Jose politics for a long time.
Yeah.
How do you think it's changed over the 40 plus years you've been an observer?
Well, it was in the, I think, the early stages of becoming modern when I came here. Norm Mineta had been the most recent mayor and apparently had sort of started a process of streamlining San Jose government, and Ted Tedesco, who was a forward-looking guy, was the city manager. Tom McHenry, I guess, actually went on the board or the council while I was here that first time, but he became mayor and rather dramatically led changes to the city after I went back to Miami for several years. And I think that it's a different city in a lot of ways.
Thank you very much, Larry Jinks. Thanks for hosting us. Great to talk to you.
Thanks for being here. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Terry.
Next month on Where Are They Now, we'll feature former San Jose Mayor Tom McHenry. Meanwhile, you can catch up on previous shows on our website at creatvsj.org or on YouTube by searching for CreaTV San Jose. And you can let us know what you think about our show and suggest future topics or guests by email at valleypolitics@creatvsj.org, on Twitter at valley_politics, and by following us on Facebook. And now that's all, folks. Thanks for watching Valley Politics. See you next time.